No viewers currently. We might have some people tune in a second. So,
My mum will tune in at some point.
okay, that's fine. I always forget to do my shirt up. I forget that I'm going on public display. I'm just going to do that now. Um, concert pro, I think it's going to be in here. Okay, still no viewers. This is going well so far. We got one viewer. One viewer. Okay, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. We might wait a minute or two to see if anybody else joins in. We've got two viewers. Two viewers.
Okay.
So Fran's watching, so that's one of them. Two, is your mum watching, Will?
I don't know. I'll remind her.
That's basically, yeah, do that. Oh, Mike Lee. Mike Lee's watching. We've got three watchers.
Oh, there we go.
This is going really well so far. Okay, I'll tell you, we'll give it another minute or two. It's only 1 minute past 5, and then we'll get going again.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this over here. I'm not showing you my better side. I've got another screen over here because I think both of my sides are equal. Uncle Peter's watching. He says hi, Fran. I probably didn't need to tell everybody that. I'll be honest. But it just came out. Dan's watching as well. Oh, look at this. We got a little fan club. There's at least
Hey.
3 people there that are talking to us. Feel free, if you want to at any point, to do it. Mike asks, how are we both doing? Do you want to answer that one first, Will?
I'm doing all right. Yes. I'm.
Day how many?
This is what. Yeah. This is day 5 of me being inside,
Nice.
having not left the house at any point. So I'm okay. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, Fran says hey as well. I'm doing okay, Mike. Today, I drove Fran to look after her granny, and that was a really nice to just get out of the house for a little bit, even though it was just a trip there and back. Via pick up a few bits from my place, including my wheelie chair. I'm back.
Hey.
This chair is very important to my life because it's so comfortable. Anyway, well, should we get going? We got a handful of viewers. That's great. Again, I'm just going to plug the PayPal link, which is in the description. All proceeds, all donations for this go to 50/50, both William and myself, and that is supporting musicians through this time of no concerts and no arts. Our careers, unfortunately, depend on entirely social gatherings, and that's not allowed at the moment. So, but if you do drop a donation, and make sure you put the comment Will and Seb, because I'm getting them fairly regularly, which is fantastic, and I really am very thankful of that. But just so that I can appropriate half the funds to Will, that'd be good. Dan asks, have you done your daily exercise yet? Let's start with Will.
No, but that's nothing new. I don't think I've done my daily exercise for long before the lockdown. So
Oh, but you walk a long way. You know, you don't.
I do used to walk around. I don't drive, so yes, I
Yeah,
do
Will.
walk.
Yeah. Fran's got a lovely exercise routine that we're doing, which ends with a dance every day, which is I'm fantastic. The natural rhythm oozes out in many ways other than dancing. So moving on, we will go to our first question of the day. What's your name? Where did you come from?
My name is Will Stevens, and I was born in Brighton, but now I live in Cardiff.
Excellent. Cardiff, of course, from the land of song.
Indeed.
Do you think that's fair? How would you describe to those people outside of Cardiff the musical, or particularly the singing output of Cardiff?
Well, Cardiff and Wales in general, really. I think it's not necessarily that everyone in Wales is a better singer, although they have produced some very good singers.
Yes.
But I think people are more willing to sing. People are less self-conscious about singing in front of other people here. You know, it's just more part of being Welsh than it is of being English, say, or being Scottish. You're just more happy to sing.
A cultural thing, yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
Do you think, just thinking of the lockdown, do you think Wales or Cardiff particularly is going to have we've seen that video of that Italian man singing Nessun Dorma on the balcony. Do you think Wales would have its answer to that?
Maybe not Nessun Dorma, but there's probably some Welsh hymn singing going on, I imagine, somewhere.
I reckon Cwm Rhondda's going to come down, isn't it?
run the Calon Lan and things like that. Yeah.
Kind of. Yes, fair enough. Good.
Yeah.
So outside of lockdown, give our viewers in their homes a nice overview of what you might be up to in a week or so.
In a normal week, Mondays I conduct my choir Serenata Singers.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays I conduct Bristol Gilbert and Sullivan Society, who, if this hadn't been happening, would have been doing their show next week.
Oh,
We'd have been opening next week. And then Thursday, Friday, and Sunday I sing as part of Llanaf Cathedral Choir, professional cathedral choir, doing services there. And then, so that's sort of every week I do those things. And obviously, usually on a Saturday I'll have a concert or something like that, or some other performance, either as a singer or as a conductor. So that's sort of a standard week, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds fun. Let's go a bit more biographical. When did you start singing?
At all, I would have been about 8, I think. When this is when we lived in Suffolk, and in a little village called Felsham, and I took part in the village pantomime a couple of times before we moved, and that would have been my first singing experiences that I can remember anyway. Back then, yeah.
Oh, that's fun. When do you think there was this transient moment when you decided you were going to become professional? Did it hit you like a hammer, or do you think it dwelled over time?
It was over the course of about a year, when I was 16, 17, and it started when you and I both went on a school choir tour at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that was when I begun. I've been doing singing in my local church choir before that, and in the local youth theatre as well. And I'd also joined Bristol Opera Company as a member of the chorus and stuff like that before that. But that choir tour was the first time when I just something about the way I enjoyed singing the music on that tour was a bit different, and I began to really think about whether I wanted to do it more. And people had begun to say to me, "Is this what you want to do?" You know, because you're at 16, you're finishing secondary school, and so you begin to choose what stuff you study. There you go. And people saying, "So are you going to do music? Are you going to do drama?" And I'd never thought of it before, but clearly those people maybe thought I had enough talent to think about it. And then so over the course of the year, that's what I decided. And I'd recently got into listening to opera. I'd always liked classical music, but that's when I started listening to opera. And I was bought a Bryn Terfel CD for Christmas that year, and listening to that made me particularly think that I wanted to sing like him, and sing the stuff he sang. And so and then at the end of that year I started having singing lessons, and that's where I went from there.
Excellent. I remember, because for the viewers at home, Will and I went to school together. We were on that same Bavaria tour to Germany, and I always found it funny because we, of course, hit sort of A levels after that. The Will wasn't in the music group.
Not at all, no.
And it was very odd. It was very odd, as you say. I think we all sort of just assumed you'd be doing it,
Well, yeah, because for a while I wanted to go and study history. So I was sort of gearing. I wanted to go to Cambridge, and I wanted to study history at Cambridge. Whether that was a realistic ambition or not, I never found out really. But my wife in the background is shaking her head. But
I'm saying nothing.
I believe in you, Will.
But so I didn't pick when we were at school A levels or anything to reflect that. I picked history, and I picked politics, and I picked classics, because that's what I wanted to do. And so by the end of that year I realised that was all the wrong choices, and I should have picked music, and I should have been, but there we go.
Life is a journey, long is the road. There's a song somewhere, and I think young people are under a lot of pressure to pick and make choices. I remember my university choice was somewhat haphazard, but I've somehow ended up in this musical career, and it's. I think the journey is important, but sometimes you can take a different journey to the same place, and.
Oh yes, yeah.
So this is not a philosophical podcast, but it's
definitely.
Nice.
I mean, I spent the next sort of 6 or 7 years after that decision, seemingly making lots of silly choices and not really getting any closer to where I wanted to be at all, whilst having singing lessons privately and whilst trying to do as much performing as I could. But actually, that led to me getting a lot of experiences. I got a lot of my sort of early career bad experiences out of the way, I think, before I even went to music college. And so that meant that when I went to music college, I'd already done a lot of things that every performer has to go through before I even started studying for my degree. So actually, it was horrible at the time to go through those things, but in hindsight, it was probably actually a very useful way to do things.
I agree with that. If any budding singers are listening, what would you say those bad experiences were? What would you say those things that you needed to cut your teeth on were?
Well, as a singer and as an opera singer, things like performing my first role in a foreign language. Yeah. Because that's such a huge milestone for anyone who wants to be an opera singer. And so I did that for the first time in 2014 when I sang The Count in The Marriage of Figaro. I had to step in about 3 weeks before as well, so I had to learn it very, very quickly. Yeah. And that was in Italian, and it's just, I'd never had to do it before, because I had done opera before that, but it had always either been an opera that was already in English or was in translation.
I've just accidentally added a page in there by mistake. Right, carry on, sorry.
No, that's yeah. So things like that I dealt with. So that was before I went to college. I did this role in Italian. So things like that, things like organising your own performances. Like I did a few recitals in my local church and stuff, and I also started trying to conduct during that time as well. So that whole thing of the difficulties of starting conducting and everything that was. So I think it's just some of those kind of milestones really, and also trying to.
Hang on, we lost you for that last sentence. Can we just go over that last sentence again? And also is how it started.
No, yes. I said, and also trying to convince people to pay you.
Yes.
To stop treating you like this is just a hobby and actually start to pay you. I wasn't getting a lot of paid work before I went to music college, but I was just beginning to. Yeah. People were beginning to think I was good enough to pay. So yeah.
Fair enough. That's cool, and also there's lots of things in there. We could go into the mechanics of being paid, but because I think it is difficult sometimes, especially probably in somewhere like Wales where everybody sings, and music is such a cultural thing that both saying, the tagline for the Musicians Union is what is it? Something about work, not play. There we go. Anyway, I've imparted much wisdom in that sentence. So as we've sort of gathered, Will has studied singing for quite a high level. He's gone to the Royal Welsh College of Art, Music and Drama.
Just music and drama, but you can do sort of vaguely
design
arty
courses.
Things. They're design courses.
Okay, so let me take that back. Will has studied at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. He is a fresh graduate of the last 2 years.
I graduated in the summer last year.
Oh gosh, so it's not even been a year yet, and we've had a national crisis or international crisis to help you in your career.
Oh yes, just what you want straight out.
Exactly. Anyway, so he is very qualified to speak about singing. So my question is, you've got 3 singers. You've got somebody who is a budding beginner.
Yeah.
You got somebody who is quite intermediate, and somebody who's advanced. So each of them come up to you and say, "I want a one-trick pony. What's the one thing I need to do to be a better singer?" Okay, so we got the beginner, the intermediate, and I guess the person who like you before you go into college wants to get into a good college. They kind of know their stuff, but they just want that final piece of advice. And I guess most of our listeners today are going to be 1 or 2, so don't worry about 3 if that's stressing you out.
Well, I mean, 3, I think if they're coming to me and they're already quite advanced, I'd tell them to go and find someone else to teach them, probably.
No.
But it depends where they are, I suppose. Well, number one, when you say complete beginner, I'm assuming they've sort of never really, or certainly in a performing sense, sung before. They've probably sung to themselves.
So maybe I'm thinking people that would join a choir. They would say, "I'd like to give this singing lark a go."
Okay, yeah,
What's it all about?
yeah.
What's the one thing that the beginners do that you wish they didn't? I guess.
I think, I mean, it sounds very simple, and in some ways it is, but in some ways it's really not. You've got to start with the breathing. I think
Yeah.
that's basically the foundation of it. And I think one of the first things I would work on is, of course, people who don't know anything about singing, don't know anything how the technique works. One of the things you often get is people separate the two things, breathing and singing. So they'll go and then sing,
Yeah.
and there'll be a stop there, and that creates tension, muscle tension. And so it's one of the first things I would work on is just blending the two. So it's just breathe and sing is one thing, and that's where you begin to work on legato singing as well, and good breath flow is making sure that there is no then sing like that.
Okay.
So that's one of the first things I think I would.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice.
The beginners
Yeah.
tend to.
And then our intermediate singer. So our intermediate singer has been singing in a, let's say, choir, because I think that's most of our audience. They've been singing in a choir for 2 or 3 years, and they just want some advice to make them a little bit more better.
Yeah. Because that means it's a bit tricky because I don't know what they sound like, what kind of noise they're making.
This is the fun of the show, Will. This is.
Yeah, I know. Gems that could apply to anyone.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Without naming names, think about somebody in one of your choirs that you think,
Okay.
that they're obviously not going to become a soloist on the opera stage, but they love singing in choir and they just want to get better.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home, while Will has a think, I haven't sent any questions ahead of time, and it's only partly because I'm thinking of them on the spot.
I think some. Okay, again, I'm just drawing on my experience of people I've worked with in the choirs I conduct, and then one of I mentioned a choir that I conduct on Mondays called Serenata Singers, and one of the great things about this group is a very small group, and they're all amateurs. None of them trained as singers. They're all people who have real jobs, But one of the great things about this group is that a lot of them are very keen to do solos.
Yeah.
So when we do a miscellaneous concert, there'll be at least 2 or 3 of them who will want to put forward an aria or a song, and they're always very keen to do so. And they don't hold back on the rep. They don't sing easy stuff just because, it's difficult. And so I think something maybe I've encountered with some of them sometimes is that making the text clear doesn't mean singing really loud, I think, and that's something that people but equally singing. I just knocked my phone off the chair. Singing softly or making a soft sound doesn't mean you restrict the sound either.
Yes,
actually, it's a lot of the time it's more about color than actual dynamic. An actual decibel level. You can trick, and that comes from sort of a theatrical background, I suppose, when you've got to fill a large hall with one person singing, but its color is more important than the actual volume a lot of the time. So that's just something to think about. I think that can improve your singing a lot. Yeah,
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's brilliant. Dynamics are not about volume; they're about color. I'm gonna use that if I remember when we get going again in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's
almost directly from my singing teacher at college, who is a master of text and of making sure you understand what he's singing, and he said things like that to me a lot. You don't need and so it's particularly about not constricting your voice just because you want to sing quietly.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Because you still have to have that supported sound. You can't I always think of it like a hose pipe. If you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. I just think that analogy of the hose pipe and water, because you can't see air, and actually when you use water, people start to click and understand. Great. Person 3. So person 3 is somebody that is going to study to become a soloist. So and that is a big difference, isn't it, between like a choral or ensemble singer and a solo singer? What would you say would be the advice to give to them?
Well, I'm just trying to think of people I know who, or maybe the things that I needed to work on when I started my formal training at college. Well, now I completely. I had something and it's gone. Oh yes, yeah. White noise is something that I was told I do a lot, and is dangerous, particularly. And again, this is possibly a stylistic thing. You know, the kind of music I sing, opera and stuff like that. White noise is basically when you are singing and you are making the sound, and it can be a nice sound still, and it's in tune, but it's just there is no resonance to it. You just so it's just a plain straight note, and people that's a controversial topic, because particularly if early music, you know, Baroque and Renaissance music, a lot of the time conductors will want you to sing like that. They want any vibrato on the sound at all, and you can understand why they might want that. However, if you are restricting your voice to eliminate any of that vibrato, that can actually do more damage than good. And because you have to tighten stuff to eliminate that. You obviously don't want it to go too far the other way, and you end up with a wobble. But vibrato is a natural thing, and means that your voice is resonating, and it means that it will carry, and it means that the sound will be a warm, nice sound to listen to. And I think a lot of younger singers come in and they do this white noise, and they maybe put vibrato on at the end of the note, which is something you get a lot in musical theatre, and that's a stylistic thing in musical theatre. But because a lot of younger singers, when they're starting out, sing a lot of musical theatre, because it's a good way to learn how to sing and to sing solo stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're making the bridge across into classical stuff, it's that white sound that you want to get rid of.
Do you bring an interesting point about style there, because I think of recordings of different generations, particularly like early Disney films. There's a very vibrato heavy sound, so things like Snow White and that sort of generation, like I think Mary Poppins sort of age, we're sort of getting out of it by then. Do you think that style will change as it has done from generation one?
I think you can definitely see a change in style from when microphones became commonplace.
Yes.
And you no longer needed, say, to fill a large theatre just with your voice. And so I think that's, you can afford to not have to, what am I trying to say? You can afford to not have to think about so many of those projection as you used to. Because if you look at musical theatre, if you look at the older early Rodgers and Hammerstein was largely before mics were commonplace in theatres, and so a lot of the people who premiered Rodgers and Hammerstein works were opera singers. And then mics became more sound, and you lost that. And now, a lot of the time, when you hear opera singers sing musical theatre, to our ears, it sounds wrong because it's just bigger and it's what But I think that and that's why musical theatre singing these days is very different to a lot of opera singing, because it's a technique based around being able to use microphones. Yeah. And the pit bands being a different thing. They're not orchestras anymore. They have electric instruments and drum kits and things. And so it's just because of that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So still on that theme of developing our own singing, I think we're going to have a lot of time at home where we can sort of do that. So my question is, who should we be listening to because I think listening is as important as practicing to singing. But
Yeah.
which singers should we be listening to, or ensembles? Just what's good listening to improve our singing.
That's interesting.
I realise this question is sort of how long is a piece of string?
Yeah. I think, well, if ensembles, I think, and I'm a little bit biased with this, but I think the 16 are an excellent choral ensemble because
Would you just
because
should we just explain why you're a little bit biased on that?
a little bit biased because I 3 years ago I took part in their training scheme called Genesis 16, where they audition lots of young singers, and then for a year you get to take part in several courses with Harry Christophers, the conductor, and Eamon Dugan, the assistant conductor, and you do these sort of weekend long. There's 2 week-long ones and a few weekend-long workshops working on repertoire, working on technique and stuff. And so I got to do that a few years ago, which was fantastic, and I learnt a lot from it.
It is a very reputable program, isn't it? And very, very highly, what's the word?
Regarded.
Lots of applicants. There is a high application rate. So for the listeners at the listeners at home, this is quite an achievement that Will did. But anyway, a plug for Will over. Carry on.
But I think that one of the reasons they're so great is from the way that Harry directs them, in that a lot of choirs make a very beautiful sound, and they do. But Harry is, again, it's about the text, and he is absolutely expects his singers to be 100% committed to the text they're singing, even if it's sort of standard church Latin text that they've sung a million times. He expects them to sing it with a degree of theatricality, and he expects them to approach it as if they're approaching it for the first time. We were singing sort of these big Latin 8-minute long pieces, and quite a lot of time in standard choral music, if you're singing in Latin or just singing any choral ensemble, the conductor doesn't really expect you to know exactly what it means. They don't expect roughly what the piece means, but Harry expected us to turn up having translated it as if it was an opera piece, so every word.
Wow.
Which is something I wasn't used to, and I think you don't get used to a lot. You just expect so the 16 are very good for that reason, I think, particularly. The King Singers also, just because everything about they are absolutely dedicated to every aspect of the performance, not just to making a fantastic sound, but everything they do is very theatrical. Their comic timing when they do a comic is impeccable, and just they are the complete package in terms of entertainment. So I think they're excellent. Just always, anything you can learn from them is great. Singers, specific singers, I think you've got to be careful. I mean, I mostly know about opera singers and about classical singers. So, but singers who are naturally talented, who are not naturally talented, but didn't need to do very much work to be as good as they are. That's dangerous because you can't imitate them.
Yeah,
they can just do, like I mentioned Bryn Tervel earlier. He's one. You can't imitate him because he just has always sounded like that. He did go to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama and study, but he sort of they didn't really need to do much work on his technique. They just worked on his languages and on his acting and stuff. He just sounded that good, and within a few months of being leaving music college, he was working, which is not how it works for most of us. So people like that, it's fantastic. You can enjoy listening to him, of course, and he is a fantastic artist, but don't try and copy him. People like that, I think.
And so, do you think that you can copy other people, or do you think one's singing voice is intrinsically unique?
I mean, the basics of singing technique are the same. But no matter who you are, no matter what style of music you're singing, no matter what voice type you are, all these kind of things, the basics are the same. And I think there are certain things like the way good singers sing vowels and the way that they colour their sound. If you find, say, a really good artist, not just someone who's got a good voice, but someone who is a real artist, and again, someone who's had to develop their voice over time, so someone who had to put in the graft and had to, build up from the ground, I think you can learn a lot from them. It's
Have you-
always
Yeah.
potentially dangerous just listening to someone and going, I'm going to try and do that. But, because as you
Yeah.
said, everyone's voice is unique and everyone's voice does work differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've had the sort of section about what we could do as singers, but when you are on your relaxing time, when you want to listen to something, where do you go? Who are you listening to?
Oh,
Let me put it this way: what's your
yeah.
favourite CD ever? If you COVID isolation discs, we need a jingle.
Isolation discs.
COVID isolation discs.
That's excellent. I mean, when I want to just sit and listen to music, I'm actually sat where I do that. There's an armchair in our front room, and I don't know if you can see behind. There's a CD
Yeah.
record player behind me that Helen's dad gave to us.
Yeah.
So I sit here when I just want to sit and listen because I've got a lot of records as well as CDs. So for my favourite disc ever,
That's going to take some thinking.
I've got a lot. That's quite hard. I'll give you one of.
I haven't listened to Desert Island discs for a while, but I think you get a few choices. I think
You do get a few choices. Okay, well, I'll try and do my sort of my lockdown discs. If I was stuck with only these CDs.
Yeah.
I think Wagner is my favourite composer, so there'll have to be a couple of Wagners
Sure.
in there.
Which one? Which ones?
I think Die Walküre from Bayreuth in the late 80s, early 90s, largely because my hero, John Tomlinson, is on that recording as Wotan. And it's a fantastic recording in general, but I think I'd need to have that to listen to. The other Wagner would probably be Die Meistersinger von Nürnberg with Robert Holl as Hans Sachs. Dallin Barenboim conducting there, if anyone's interested. So those, I think, there's a disc just called Opera Arias by an American bass called Samuel Ramey. The reason I particularly like that one is when I first started having singing lessons, my teacher at the time lent me that disc and said, well, he's similar voice type to you, and this is the kind of stuff I think you could do. And I'd never heard of Samuel Ramey at the time, but it was some of the most amazing singing I've ever heard, and it just sort of very inspirational disc for me personally. So I think I'd have to have that, just because for me it's perfect bass singing on that disc. It's just something to aim for all the time. I'd have to. There's a Frank Sinatra album I'd have called The Concert Sinatra, where he sings a lot of Rodgers and Hammerstein actually, but I just think it's a fantastic album. Bit different from the stuff he normally did, but I think he absolutely nails every track on that. And then how many that's for? One more. Oh.
What are you listening to at the moment?
Well, Helen's just said, "What am I listening to at the moment?" I'm listening to lots of Mozart at the moment, just because I've sort of rediscovered Mozart, but I've just suddenly become much more interested in. So there.
I think you have to. I think if you played Mozart to somebody that just started their journey with music, I think it's too complicated. But I think once you sort of get a grip of music and it's finer, it's like fine dining, I think.
Yeah.
But I still think it is, and do you know why I think that? Because it is so perfect, it is so balanced that it seems simple, and but it really is not. It's elegant. It's anyway. So
that's a perfect word for it. Elegant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd have to a Mozart opera, but I'm not sure exactly which one. I don't know if I could decide, but I'd take a Mozart opera.
It has to be Don Giovanni, or
maybe.
Okay, so in your COVID isolation discs, what one score would you take with you? Because I know you're an avid collector of opera scores.
Yeah.
Does it depend on who? Well, obviously, you are isolated with your wife Helen.
Yes.
Would it, if there were other people in the house to perform the cast, would that depend on which score you took?
Yeah. Does it have to be one I currently own?
No.
Then I would take a Bear Writer full score of The Marriage of Figaro, I think.
Fair enough. And that
That
answers the
costs about
question.
£400, so I'm saving up for it.
Right, that reminds me to plug the PayPal link. The PayPal link is below, and it's supporting Will and I through this period of no concerts. And yes, just make sure if you do donate today, but especially if you're watching this on Catch Up, that you say Seb and Will, because I will split those profits, or the donations, sorry, not profit, halfway between Will and myself, so that we can survive this COVID isolation.
Much appreciated.
Yes. Also, what might be another practical way to support particularly Will is I'll put his email address on the screen if he's all right with that.
Yep, sure.
And we can see there is his email. And if you'd like some virtual singing lessons, you can hook up with Will on Skype. Maybe stop you going mad in your own house where we're on lockdown for the next whatever time.
Stop me going mad.
Yeah,
as well.
and it will help Will in more ways than financially. I'm sure he's very reasonable on his rates.
Very reasonable.
Yes, and as you can see, a wealth of talent and a real pedigree, actually, with the training he's got at the Royal Welsh College. So that would be great fun for Will and you. If you're embarrassed, don't be. It's fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just sing from the heart.
It's always embarrassing at first. Don't worry about it.
It is.
Yes.
But actually, with this crisis has come great opportunity in that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go and find Will anywhere. No, it's fine. And it means you don't need to be near Cardiff either. You can be in Scotland.
Yeah.
You can be in Inverness. You could even be on those islands at the top, the Shetlands. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you could be anywhere, and I think that'd be really great. I'm going to leave Will's email address at the top. We had a thumbs up during that agreed with us. I think it was you can be at home. I can't remember. The comments are a little bit behind because there's a little bit of a delay. But anyway. So yes. So you're going to save up for this score. Can I suggest you wait until we get through COVID first before you?
I will. Yes. It's not top of my scores list. It's just like it's a dream one that I'd love to have.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Why? How are they so expensive? Is it just the quality of the paper and the binding?
I think it is, and also I think it's a hardback one.
Mm.
And they are. Yeah. Because I mean the vocal. I've got a Bear Writer vocal score, and that will have cost about £50.
Wow. That's not. But I mean, there is something nice about touching it. I mean, to be honest, before we stopped, I'd put most of my music on my iPad, and I was conducting from iPad. Because it's just nice. So, and I think there will be that. I think there will be really nice things to hold and digital in like 30 years.
What I would like is all these sort of publishers and editors who like Bear and Writer who do the reduction editions. If they were able to make their stuff into PDFs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Wonderful, because then you don't environmentally much more friendly, but you still get this lovely edition rather than using some of the cheap dodgy ones that you often find on the internet. You know,
in IMSLP. Oh, IMSLP have got an app now. I noticed the other day. I think you can. So for those of you uninformed, IMSLP is the International Music something library program. Source. There we go.
The cheap music. Yeah.
So every. It might be sheet music, you might be right, I don't know. Anyway, anything that's out of copyright, you can pretty much download this. So Mozart being a great example, but anyway, it's a great resource. So we've done your Desert Island discs, we've plugged your students. Okay, so I'm going to just prepare the audience a little bit. I've got a few more questions for Will, but after that it will be down to you. You can ask Will some questions in two ways. You can just put it in the comments. I guess it could be about singing or about anything that we've spoken about so far, or keep it decent, please. that will be the end. Or you can Skype in too. You can join the show if you're really brave. I've only had that once, so this is the second Chatty Tuesday though. So that is one per show. To be fair, and just a quick update again. Tuesdays are now Chatty Tuesdays, and Thursdays are Theory Thursdays. So starting on Thursday at 5 o'clock, I'm doing a workshop on how to arrange for choir. The first one will be in the form of just learning a few basic choral harmony things. We'll have a little touch at Bach chorale style harmony, and then next week we will start to apply that to arranging popular songs. We'll cover copyright and all that stuff as well, so it should be great fun and really informative if you just want to know a little bit more about how that choral writing works. Anyway, back to Will.
Excellent arranger. I will just lend that.
Thank you very much.
So you will learn.
Thank you very much. Yes, I do. I do particularly like arranging, especially the good old medley. That's my specialism. Anyway, we're going to hopefully, actually, on the topic of arranging, I'm in the process of publishing them all. Using this time stuck inside very wisely, I would have thought. I will, of course, publish a list of that when it's all done, and that should be exciting. But anyway, over to Will again. Now, picture the scene. There's an epidemic outside. Nobody can leave the house. And everybody's trying to find a new hobby or refine what they already do. All of these people are in a choir. What can they do with their voices to do two things? A, to keep up the standard that they were before. So how can they stay singing as well as they did? But also, how can they? Is there an exercise they can do to make singing better when they eventually can leave the house and be with their friends again?
I think the basic, most important thing, and this applies to when you're not very well as well, when you've got the cough, is just to keep the muscles moving, keep them working. You don't even have to actually sort of sing something. Just keep using them in the way you would when you were singing, and just keep them ticking over, because it's like singing is all about muscles, and it's like and there's so many parallels between being a singer and being an athlete and all this kind of thing, to do with the way that you need to train yourself. And if you're someone who runs marathons and you don't do any running for 6 months, you're not going to be able to go straight back out and do another marathon. It's the same with singing. Hopefully this won't last 6 months, but you just need to just keep trying to talk with your larynx a bit lower, and
yes,
and that's why you see a lot of singers talk like this a lot of the time, because they're using their singing voice, and it just keeps the muscles moving like that. I don't normally, and that's why they do it. It's just keeping them all in the right place and keeping it all set up, so that it's not such a big leap again when they have to sing.
And is that something that you could do? So I can't do it. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you don't mind sounding like this, then yes, but that's it.
They might think you're a bit of a dipstick, though, if you went around, especially on Zoom with the word.
Well, I was going to say yes, yeah.
Hello.
But it's so. I mean, basses do it a lot because they keep everything low, and tenors sometimes talk up here a lot more.
Yes. Because Sorry, I feel like I'm mocking you, but I'm really not. I'm just trying it out. Everybody, have 10 seconds at home to just try it out now. Just say a few words with your larynx, either down here or up here. No, I don't know. I think it has to be down here. What do you think, Will?
Just keep it nice and low.
Nice and low. Ooh.
There we go.
If I spoke like this, I feel more dramatic. I feel like James Earl Jones.
Oh well, I can only dream of sounding like James Earl Jones.
Quite.
Yeah.
I'll have to test this later to see if my new voice.
See what Fran thinks.
Yes. Well, okay. So that's good. I liked the other exercise you suggested we did as well.
Which one? I forget which one that was.
I'm giving you a visual clue.
Ah, that one. Yes. That's a good one I say to people a lot when they've got to sing something fast, and you need to practice it with your teeth shut like this, so that you're not using your jaw at all. You're only using your lips and your tongue, and you need to keep practicing it. And then when you can do it and someone can understand what you're saying, then you're ready to let it go again.
I'm very impressed that we can have a conversation like this.
Yeah.
If people are tuning in right now, they're going to think we're really strange.
Yes.
I mean, more strange than normal.
But I think, I told you this, I picked that up from a guy called Alessandro Corbelli, who is an Italian baritone and one of the best singers in the world for singing patter. You know, he specializes in a particular kind of opera role where he has to sing very, very fast a lot of the time, lots of words. And I watched a video where he was saying that's how he practices it. And if that's how he does it, then that's probably the best way to do it, because he is one of the best in the world at that. So yeah, I think you could, and it's one you can very easily do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we're going a bit more biographical now.
Okay.
If you could speak to yourself and give yourself career advice 10 years ago.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Or maybe 5. I don't know. Just some time ago. You decide how long ago. What would it have been? And this is with the preface of life is a journey, long is the road.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that I absolutely don't believe in the regrets thing. But anyway.
I think 10 years ago from now, I'd tell myself to finish my A-levels. Because I didn't mention this earlier. I quit sixth form halfway through because I had a stupid idea that would be the way to go and be a professional musician. And I would tell myself, finish your A-levels. You don't have to then go straight to university if you don't want to, because I think that, as I said, I think going later than a lot of people was a good thing. But I'd say finish your A-levels, because that actually is going to cause the most immediate trouble for the next few years, is that you don't even have that. So that, I'd say, and don't think you have to do it all now. Something I still struggle with. If I have an idea of something, or if I feel like I have to do it right now, and I still have to tell myself, no, you don't need to do it. But I think back then, how would I have been? I'd have been 20. No, I'd have been 16 10 years ago. I felt like now I decided to be a professional musician, I needed to sing all the roles I could. I needed to, once I decided I wanted to be conductor, I needed to go straight into conducting big stuff, and blah, blah, and I think
little by little,
little by little, and I think again I probably still would have done a lot of that stuff because I'm me, even, but maybe just implanted the idea a bit earlier. Because as I said, I still have to remind myself of that now. But yeah, just don't. Music is a long game. Singing, opera singing particularly, is a long game. I've been studying singing now for 10 years, and I've still got a good 5 or 6 years to go before my voice really settles where it's going to be for the rest of my career. And you never stop learning. Anyway, that's all walks of life, not just music. But it's you've got to be so patient with it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, and as you say, I mean, most of that applies to more walks of life.
Yeah.
And I think the difficult thing with singers, and I approach this from a place of respect, but as you said, your instrument is your body, and there is just some things you can't speed up, and there are therefore roles you just can't do.
And you can't compare yourself to other people, because other people, it happens at different times. There was I know a singer. He's younger than me. I'm pretty sure he's younger than me, and already technically streets ahead of me. Fabulous voice, great actor, very nice guy as well. And and you look at him and go, I think he's at least a year younger than I am.
Yeah.
But he's got a master's degree, and he's got all this, and he's off having a very successful career, and it's very frustrating. But you've got to think, but actually, it just happened at a different time for him, and his instrument, as I say, is just more developed than mine is. But so singing is particularly subjective like that.
I agree with that. Okay, it's time to open questions up to the floor. Nobody's commented so far. If even if it's a simple question like what's Will's favourite ...
Sure, I will answer.
My funny story is I'll tell the funny story while other people think, although Fran's added a question in. So
Okay.
just this funny story about funny questions is Sing It Loud went on the radio, BBC Coventry and Warwick, and the question on the studio was, what places do you not like? So the idea was that people phone in. Now, if you've ever done any radio or broadcast, I guess similar to this, like the other day when I just brought you in without telling you, thank you. You walk into the studio during the song or something, and the presenter says maybe a quick hello, but they leave the main talk in. The question was, where do you not like? And all of the people kept ringing in and saying, I like everywhere. I can't think of anywhere nasty, not nice. And the man points at me, Bob Brawley, the presenter, and he goes, You're the boss of this choir. Where do you not like? Be decisive. And I went, Birmingham. And of course, because it's local radio, it goes out to Birmingham. And the producer was banging on the window. It was hilarious. Never again could I set foot in Birmingham without feeling bad. But I was put under pressure. Anyway, Fran has asked a question. I'll go in order. This is the question. I'll put it on the screen for everybody at home to read it, and I'll read it out loud to you. Do you think there's a different technique for breathing when singing compared to when playing brass? I always run out of breath when I sing, but on horn I could go on forever.
I actually think, Seb, you're probably slightly better equipped to answer because you do play. I've never played a brass instrument or even a woodwind instrument. I played the cello for a little bit when I was about 9. I don't know. I maybe it's to do with, obviously when you're singing, you take the breath and then you have to use it to form words and vowels and consonants and things. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for that. I honestly don't know enough about the technique behind playing brass instruments to be able to answer the question. Sorry.
Yeah. That's fine. I guess for me, I'm a very bad brass player. Fran will know that. But I had a conversation with somebody who plays the horn, and he said it's quite common for brass players to overblow and do damage, whereas singing, I think it's impossible, because with brass you're creating pressure, and I think it's the back pressure. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to join you in this boat, Will, and say I don't know.
Sorry, Fran.
Okay, moving on. Oh, the cat's just brought a robin in. Oh dear. So that means Fran probably wasn't listening to that not answer of a question, so that's fine. Mike has a question. When singing at home, I'm always conscious of the neighbours, so tend to sing in a more restricted way. Any thoughts? I think that's a great question. That is a great question.
That is a good question. I'll be honest with you, Mike. Our neighbours both have young children, so they're quite noisy. So I don't tend to worry too much about it. I mean, I only sing at home really when I'm on my own. Even though Helen has heard me sing 1,000 times and knows exactly what I sound like, I don't tend to sing properly anyway when she's at home.
Only as a joke.
Only as a joke, as she's just said. My philosophy would be, don't worry about them unless they actually come around and say something. Then maybe you should negotiate. But until that point, go for it. And they might enjoy it. They might enjoy having someone singing next door to them.
I guess there's two parts to the question, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong. But I guess yes, it's is it loud and disruptive? But I guess the second part of the question is maybe one could be embarrassed that they would hear you singing.
Yes, I suppose.
You're still at home though. They're not going to say anything unless it's bad.
Helen says you're still at home though, and so you should. I guess that means she feels you shouldn't feel embarrassed about what you do in your own home. Maybe is what she's going for.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess. It's an interesting question because of those two parts. You know, when I was growing up, I was learning the drum kit, which is a very noisy instrument.
Yes.
It's probably at the top. In fact, yes, it probably is at the top.
Well, maybe bagpipes might be a bit noisier.
Yes, and yeah. But at least with bagpipes, you get a tune. With drums, you kind of,
That's true.
you're largely doing groove. Anyway, but, we had a conversation with the neighbours and we said, look, I'm learning the drums. It's going to be noisy. But if you got a headache and you need it to stop, then let us know. That's fine. And they didn't. And we were very, I only played in social hours, no sort of late evening drumming or anything like that. It was usually, I guess, after school, but yeah. And I think the other thing I would say is maybe find a place in the house which is more soundproofed. That would work because you don't want to really sing in a restricted way. I mean, have you got any thoughts on that, Will?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely don't change the way you sing because you're worried about the neighbours. I think because as Seb said, if you get into I don't know how often you do sing at home, but if it's regularly and you start to say restrict what you're doing because you're worried about them, that could, without you realizing, become habit. And that then becomes something that you have to break out of when you're at choir practice or when you're or any kind of whatever. So, definitely don't change something. I think there's a lot of singing practice you can do without making any noise, actually, as well.
Ooh,
just
should we have some examples?
Well, yeah, I mean, just practicing breathing healthily. Obviously, you don't need to make any particular noise to do that. Practicing the way that you form the vowels and the practice, and that thing I said about making sure there is no stoppage between breathing and singing. You can do that without really actually having to make a lot of noise. So that kind of thing, and also working on your text and working on your on memorizing your text and all that kind of thing. You don't need to ever make any noise to do that. So that's a lot of stuff you can do before you ever actually have to make.
The same thing. They visualize their movements, all the muscle groups are engaged without actually doing it.
Helen is saying that athletes do the same thing, where they visualize their movements and engage their muscles without actually having to do it. So again, another parallel between
athletes and singers.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot of parallels between that, and I guess we could do a whole nother hour on that.
Probably, yes.
We are drawing to a close. If another question comes in, I will ask it. But thank you so much, Will. It's been another good chat. And thank you very much for coming on the show. Just another reminder, if you are going to be very kind, and I am very appreciative of your help, friends, watching, just make sure that you put in the comments Will and Seb so that we've got there. If you want, I can drop you another way of paying me if you haven't got PayPal, but I think it's fairly ubiquitous by now. Next Chatty Tuesday, so at 5 o'clock on Tuesday next week, we are speaking to sound engineer, musician and general top bloke, Bungle. Bungle is... Mike says, great, thanks, good tips. Bungle is a regular sound technician of one of my choirs, Sing It Loud, works all over the West Midlands, and is a fantastic bloke. Does lots of good things. He's a sound technician for the Godiva Festival, which is a massive festival in Coventry. Sorts all of that out, and is generally a good chat. It will be fun for sure. Question number one will probably be, why the heck are you called Bungle? Although if you see him, you kind of get it. Will's nodding at that. But it's great. I'm really looking forward to that one, and it should be great. So thank you, Will. No more questions have popped in. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Stay indoors. Wash your hands.
Stay indoors. Wash your hands. Good. And don't buy too much pasta or toilet roll.
Yes. Stop panic buying.
Yes. Did you know? I learnt this from Fran's brother-in-law the other day that people are now stockpiling DVD box sets.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
We've already got those.
We have quite a lot of DVDs at home. We were doing that long before it was cool.
Yeah. Fair enough. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, and I hope everybody watching has enjoyed this and really has helped you stay connected to some sort of outside world in this difficult time. Anyway, thank you, friends. I'm going to click finish. We'll stay on because we'll have a chat after. All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.